Hello and welcome back to Fork in Politics. I'm Calvin Chapman, your host. So welcome to the current Brexit views. This looks at predominantly, well solely, YouGov data. And I wanted consistency across all of the data that I'm looking at. I think if we use the same polling data all across 2014, 15, 16 and 17, then we do get a uniform view. So one of the things that I've noticed recently, well in fact it's been going on since the beginning of Brexit, ever since that glorious day in June 2016, we've had Remoaners who are absolutely confident that the majority of the country thinks the way that they do, which is that Brexit is wrong and we should negate the entire thing. The problem with that view is the data shows the exact opposite. The majority, and I would go as far as say the vast majority of the British public, are not only for Brexit but positively looking forward to it. The only people that are not are the people in the Lib Dems, the majority of Labour MPs and the press. And it just seems such an odd state of affairs to be in, where the media is 100% negative on Brexit and yet the public is 70% plus in favour of Brexit, and I find it abhorrent. I'll start in March 2017 with a YouGov poll which is showing here. This was the first poll that showed a substantial majority in favour of Brexit. It showed that there was 69% of the British public were in favour and 24% were against. This was the first one that showed a large majority were in favour of Brexit. It showed 69% of the public were in favour of Brexit and only 21% were against Brexit and wanted a second referendum or wanted it scrapped and done away with because they don't like democracy. What it did show was 44% of those questioned, and it is important to remember it is only the people that are questioned. But YouGov and all of the other pollsters do have usually a good knack of extrapolating that small amount of data, weighting it in favour of what the national statistics would show, and then extrapolating it across and getting an idea of what the entire public are thinking. And you know, they do get it wrong. On Brexit night, YouGov was 4 points off in the polling that they showed for Remain, so they do get it wrong, but as I say, I'm using the same data all across this argument. So as I say, this showed 44% of people voted leave and were still in favour of leave, and 25% had voted Remain but were that they were positive about Brexit and they were backing Brexit. So that gives us our 69%, you know, we're getting up for 3/4 of the country now back Brexit. Only 21% do not back Brexit. And yet you have to ask the question, why is it on every politics show the BBC has a substantial majority are for Remain and virtually none for leave? And they do it on every single politics programme, and you've got to ask yourself, why is the BBC showing content that is diametrically opposed to what the British people think? That's just, you know, we pay a tax for them to show us what we want to see. So why are they showing us the exact opposite? It was interesting in this March 2017 poll, it also showed that more people were in favour and supportive of Theresa May than weren't, and it showed 48% said they were confident of Theresa May, 39% were not, 24% thought a trade deal with the EU was more important than immigration. 16% thought immigration was more important than free trade, and 44% thought a deal could be done where we get both immigration control of EU citizens and a trade deal. 45% thought there should not be a second referendum, 27% thought there should be a second referendum, and 15% thought Parliament should vote on the trade deal. 55% thought the UK should be prepared to walk away without a deal, and 24% thought we should not be prepared to walk away from the EU without a deal. That's March 2017. 12th of May, it showed pretty much the same thing. It showed that we had 45% of people were leavers, 23% were relievers, which is people that voted Remain but now back Leave, and just 22% supported Remain and or abandoning Brexit in one way or another. And I've got to read this, it is on the website. This is what YouGov said. This means that the Conservative and UK position among 68% of voters, with Labour, the Liberal Democrats, the Greens and the Nationalists scrapping about for just 22% of the voters. In this three-way split, the fight for votes takes on a significant, slightly different form. Amongst hard Remainers, the Conservatives received just 10% of the vote and are behind both Labour and the Liberal Democrats. Among hard leavers, the situation is reversed, with over 7 in 10, 71% planning on voting Conservative. When it comes to the relievers, the Tories secure 45% of the vote and had a 10% lead over Labour. And again, you know, it's this amusement that we have. We are the majority. Leavers are the majority, and yet the majority of MPs and the majority of parties are all going for the minority of the British public. There's only UKIP and the Conservatives are massively in favour of the Leavers. So there was a new poll came out on the 1st of August, which YouGov said this, and again I'm sorry I'm reading, but it is important. 6 in 10 voters and a third of Remain voters say significant damage to the economy would be a price worth paying to get their way on Brexit. New YouGov research reveals that large proportions of Leave and Remain voters are so committed to their beliefs on whether or not Britain should leave the EU that they believe significant harm befalling the UK economy or even losing their jobs would be a price worth paying in order to get their way on Brexit. Now, I'm not quite as extreme as that, but I do think that there necessarily will be short-term economic damage as we leave, but I and the vast majority of people that I know believe that that short-term damage is worth it because the long-term is hugely positive. We will do amazing things outside of the EU, and that's why I'm still committed to Brexit. So there was a slight change by September, which is the most recent that I looked at, and this had 45% were hard leavers, 17% were relievers, and just 27% were hard Remainers. The Lib Dems positioned itself as going after the 48%, which is what Remain got in the referendum. The problem is that 48% is now down to between 21 and 27%, and that's why the Lib Dems are nowhere. During the general election in 2017, Labour positioned itself as being for Brexit. They were positive about Brexit. So people voted for them in large numbers, much larger numbers than was ever expected. And since then, they've come out as being predominantly in favour of Remain, and they want to fight Brexit all the way. And I think that shows the absolute hypocrisy of Labour. People voted for them on a manifesto that was predominantly Brexit, it was Leave. People voted for them People that didn't want it voted Lib Dem, and Lib Dem got nowhere as a consequence. And Labour have taken that pole position and basically spat in the face of the voters that voted for them. And I find that absolutely outrageous. I really do recommend you go read all of the detailed analysis that's on the website. It's a really important subject. You've got to remember, this is one of the most important things that this country will have done since the Second World War. We are walking away from an economic club, a political club that we have been confined in for 40 years. It's significant. You don't have to be in the EU in order to be economically prosperous, and as far as I'm concerned, UKIP is the party that you should vote for if you are if you're a leaver. If you are positive about this country and you're positive about Brexit, vote UKIP.